Hello, I'm Noir Nerd, and this is another tutorial video on my channel. I'm sure to do many. In this one, I think Pancake Cat in the comments requested a video just on making a basic website. So in this tutorial, we're going to go through some CSS, some HTML. I'll explain what these things mean, and we'll be using the Bootstrap library for the layout and CSS. So there'll be a lot of pre-compiled CSS we can use, and I'll explain some of the terms just from a beginner's level, and then we'll be writing some HTML as well. It's just going to be a static site. The site we're going to make is I had the idea of just making like a one-page artist portfolio scrolling page, so that's the basic idea of what we're going to make. And without further ado, I'll get into it, and we'll just start designing our page. As I said, as I go through, I'll try and explain what everything is, how everything works in terms, and etc, etc. So let's get on with it. Okay, so starting off, we just want to create a folder for our project. So let's just call it new, and I'll call it artist tutorial. There we go. So that's that done. Okay, now let's just go grab Bootstrap, or we can just so we'll probably put the so let's have a look at Bootstrap first, and I'll talk a little bit about what that is. So Bootstrap's what's called a mobile first. It's like a library basically for building quick layouts on the web using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it's really good for like rapidly prototyping, and you can be relatively sure that it's going to work on phone, tablet, and desktop. It comes with a lot. So let's have a look at some of this. I'll just talk a little bit about it. So yeah, responsive mobile first sites. I'm not going to go too much over the definition because I want to make it quite snappy. So you've got these. Let's talk a bit about what are classes in CSS as well, maybe. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and it's basically a language used when you're coding websites and web applications to define the presentation. So it's doing things like the font styles, the layout of the page, and like basically the look and feel of the page. So in Bootstrap, it's got this row column system, and you can define. So this is an example. It's a good example here actually. So you've got a container class. There's also, so you have it in CSS when you're referring to the CSS in your HTML, which is happening here in the div class. You can either have an ID, which is a unique reference to something, or a class, which could be referenced many times. A lot of the time you just use class, but ID is if you've got one of that thing on the page, for example. A lot of the time you just use class, but it does depend. That's just worth knowing. So for example, if we had like it says here, if we've got a row and 3 columns, this is how, with using Bootstrap's predefined layout CSS, you'd define that. So you've got row class here and there, and then we've got a column defined there, column defined there, column defined there. You could just define that with col. Col sm refers to I think so that it supports the that stands for small. It's to do with how it will display on different. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So some of the prefixes you can add. Yeah, so look, it says small, medium, LG is large, XL is extra large layout screen resolutions. So that's a little bit of an introduction to the layout. It's the most basic. You can also add quite usefully padding and margins. You can just find where it is. Yeah, so you can just add like, so if you wanted to add like, so I should probably quickly explain what margin and padding are as well. So margin and padding is something we talk about in the border box model. So say for example this with an element on the page centered, I don't know, like this. This is the page here. My screen is the page. This Van Gogh thing is the an object. The padding would refer to, say we had some text in the middle of it. I would refer to the spacing within the box that I've defined here. So if we say this is called div class rectangle, the padding would refer to the spacing inside, whereas the margin would refer to the spacing anything outside the object, if that makes sense. That's quite a good thing to remember with CSS actually. So that's worth remembering. I'm just trying to remember where the margin and padding classes are, so just going to demonstrate that. No, it's not there. Components is like Bootstrap also includes a lot of these components as well. So you've got like button predefined sort of looks of buttons and with some functionality as well. Because it's also got some JS in there as well. Like we're also going to be using the latest version of Bootstrap as well as Bootstrap 4. There's an older version which is slightly different, but we may as well use the most up-to-date version, I think. Yeah, so for example, the carousel is like a slider, image slider, so that uses a bit of JavaScript to work as well. But we're not going to cover JavaScript too much. I just want to do mostly layout and HTML and CSS in this tutorial. Anyway, okay, so that's me. I've talked a little bit about Bootstrap, introduced to some very basic concepts. So I think next we need to do is fire up our IDE. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, but you can use Atom, whichever you please. So you know. So I've just got it off screen. I'm just going to open up that folder. So we want to go open folder. We want to find, that's the, there we go. No. Okay, so we've got our IDE. So I'm going to assume that you're using Visual Studio Code. Obviously you can use Atom or anyone, but Visual Studio Code seems to be the de facto standard that everybody's using at the minute. For good reason, because it's very useful. So I'll just quickly go over some of the features on that. So you've got the Explorer here, which is basically directory explorer, so your folder explorer, so you can look at everything that's in here. You can create a new file, which you do use quite frequently, a new folder if you want to create a new folder, and just a refresh. Search is quite useful. I use this quite a lot. It's called search and replace. So there's no code in there now, but if I want to find a reference to a certain thing, I could just search for it. Like, I don't know, I had a class called rectangle. Again, using this example, I could just type in rectangle or div class equals rectangle to find every reference to that word. Can be quite useful sometimes, definitely. This is for source control. We're not going to cover that in this video, but that is also a useful thing to bear in mind. So using tools like Git, and you can use clients for that, like GitHub or SourceTree, etc. Different softwares that help you. I'll also just quickly say what source control is. So it's a way of managing your code so that you basically commit the history of any changes that you make. This can be very useful if you're working in a group or in an organization. If there's a few of you working on a code base, because you'll be working on different things at the same time, but you don't want to break certain things that you're working on the master branch in source control. There's run and debugging. Used for debugging processes, and extensions, which is just extensions you can add, but we're not going to go over that too much. Okay, so let's create, I think we're going to create a folder called CSS for our style sheet. We're going to be using Bootstrap's CSS, but also we might want to add some of our own, so just in case we'll just add our own custom, so we've create a new folder there. Oh, not that, I don't want to do that, sorry. What? Why has it done that? I just delete that way up. I don't know what's happened there. Okay, and then another one, JavaScript. So create 2 folders there, just for if we need to create some custom JavaScript and if we need to create some CSS. I just usually do that. You can use whatever naming convention you like, but I'd usually do something equivalent to that, because then I've got a place to store my CSS and my JavaScript. And then we'll reference that. Next thing we're going to do is going to create just index.html. So, like I said, all we're going to be doing in this tutorial is writing HTML static page. So, in coding you have static page, which is it doesn't really. It's weird terminology, really, but basically, a static page is it's sort of more simple. It's not written using PHP. It's not using something like Node. It's just client-side rendered HTML usually in this case. So it's just static. There's nothing dynamic happening there. It's not like changing. There's no server. There's no server-side stuff going on there really. So I won't go too much into that. There's no point. We're going to cover the basics. So right, let's write some HTML. There we go. It's doc type HTML. So that's the doc type is HTML. HTML there. And we're going to want to set a head, which is where we'll put in our references to our CSS as well. We'll go into that in a second. This is just covering basic, not that. Body is where we're going to put in our content. And that's the basic. So first things first, we want to grab. We're just going to use the CDN for Bootstrap. So CDN is just like basically a place online where the code is stored that we want to use. So put this into our. This is also how you link to a style sheet as well. So we've got link rel style sheet and then a URL in this case. It could be a local. It could be a place in your local folder. So we could put it. If we want to link to, example, a custom style sheet we might want to make, which we would link to link rel style sheet and then a file in the CSS folder, for example. But first we're just going to build that basic layout. So yeah, we might as well import this JavaScript stuff if we want. This would be worth copying. So this, and like, honestly, so I've written some of it there, but honestly, 99% of the time you will just be doing this. But I just wanted to introduce some of the ways you'd write it just by hand first. But basically, that's more or less exactly what I just wrote there, except with more meta information and the script, JavaScript scripts. So let me just explain a few of these tags. This defines the doc tag as HTML. HTML again, a head, which I've already gone over. This is meta tags, so just gives you a bit of information. The viewport, blah blah blah. Again, let's boost the. So we've got title, just basically means the title that comes up in the browser. So I'll change this to artist portfolio. And then this body text. So if I save this now, I'll just open this up. So let's have a look at it. See what it actually looks like now. Chrome, yeah. So it just says hello world, which is classic startup sort of message. Just H1, which stands for heading 1. So it means just make it big, make it this, da, da, da. So I guess we want to make up a fake artist name, so let's just call John Smith Painter of Dreams or something, I don't know. And then we want maybe let's have a look at some of the stuff we can use in Bootstrap for that might be quite useful for this. And this is something you get used to in Bootstrap is you can basically like pick and choose from all these different site elements, which is quite useful. So let's have a look. Card might be quite good for this purpose, possibly. So yeah, you can like sort of pick and choose through these predefined components, which is very useful actually. So I'm just going to try and find. I'm sure there's one which is like a jumbotron. That's what I want. It's just like a big sort. It can be good for what is known in web development as a call to action. So we're going to use this. I'm just copying and pasting it actually, but I'll talk a bit about maybe one a fluid one actually. But this is good because it sort of shows you how easy a lot of it is, really, to be honest. Oh, I don't know that. Not that. Don't copy and paste in the wrong place. Okay, so we've got a Bootstrap imported in, so let's just give this a title. Again, there's H1 there, so I'll just put that there instead of where it says Smith, Painter of Dreams. The good thing about Bootstrap is, obviously I could make a really long tutorial about CSS and how to make write responsive layout CSS, but in all honesty it's probably quite a bit of a ball ache, and so I'm just going to generate some random text for that artist statement at the minute, because I'm not going to spend. This is a website you might go on a lot. Lorem Ipsum was a web developer because it's just a good place to generate Lorem Ipsum. Let's do that. Let's have a look again. Ding ding. So get rid of that one at the top, the H1. Get rid of that. And I think I'll create my custom CSS in a minute because I want to. So we've got that. We probably want to create a navbar next. So navbar being a place that you can navigate the different. So we're going to make it a one-page site for a start, but we do want to make it so that you can click on different areas, so you don't have to scroll all the time. So the next thing we want to create from Bootstrap is a navbar. So let me just find that. And you'll see how sort of simple Bootstrap makes all this stuff. It does mean that you sort of get cookie cutter elements in a way. So if you want to make something that's a bit more bespoke, usually you're going to have to get a bit more involved and coding something yourself. But that's sort of beyond the realms of this tutorial. So yeah, so we want to have this here. So I want to try to see what this looks like. We'll just keep the. I know I'm just copying and pasting things in, but for the purposes of this example, it sort of works. So there we go. We've got a little nav bar there. Let's have a look at some of this. So there's a lot of classes here. Active. That active class there refers to the fact that that's the currently selected one, so you can change that as well. And we're going to change these hrefs as well, so we're going to change the titles too. So obviously this is quite. Let's go paintings, home. Make that about. And then we'll go something like contacts. Just to keep it really simple, really simple. Get rid of that one. Don't need the disabled link. That's just there as an example from the Bootstrap. So there we go. Now I know I might be moving at quite a breakneck pace for some beginners, but I want to make this so you can watch over it a few times and sort of pick up new bits every time. So to summarize, let's just put navbar markup. We've created a navbar using the Bootstrap's defined styles, which again are coming from here, this content delivery network, so it's in the cloud. Then we have this jumbotron, which is the about. It's also good to mark up your code as well, so, to comment your code. So I've, for example, created navbar, marked where the navbar starts, marked where the about. It just makes it easier to read when you're going through it again. Okay. So let's have a look at that now. Let's just go, and then we'll change navbar to just navbar brand. We can put a logo image in here actually, which might be quite good, but for now we'll just put artist or something. We might be able to put a little image in there later. Or just get rid of it altogether, I reckon actually. It's not really doing much there. Yeah. So we've got a very minimalistic sort of. Maybe we want to put an image in there actually. Painter of get a John Smith Painter of Dreams. So maybe we want to. Obviously, as it's an art website, we want to have an image. We want it to be bold. So let me just find my layer bitch or something. I don't know. Or I'll just try find some random photo of some artist or something. It doesn't have to be. I've got Rodachenko, one of the Russia ones. I'm in Russia actually, so it's quite fitting. Rodachenko photo. That's a good one, isn't it? There, look at that. Angsty smoking artist. So let's get this document. Let's get our. Maybe we want to create a new folder actually called photos. And then save that in there. Okay, so next we're going to add an image. So we're going to have this image just after the artist statement, and I'll have to add some CSS. But first, let's just see what happens when I. So we're going to write image source, photos, Alexander Rodachenko. So we go to our photo directory. I'm going to alt, which is good for photo of John Smith. It's not John Smith, but we'll just create it with a width of 200 for now, and then just close that. There we go. So we've got a picture in there now, but it doesn't really look very good being there. It's a bit. There's loads of white. There's loads of space on the right now. It's just sort of wasted, completely wasted. So probably going to want to add some CSS. So maybe we will add. I think Bootstrap's got some CSS we can add for images, so we can, or we can. Where is it again? Images. There we go. Probably want to add a. There we go. So just do a float right. It's already got that defined and see it in the Bootstrap. And trust me, it just saves. So we want to refer to it with class equals float right. It should work now, I think. Yeah. I just need to make it be higher up, I think. So I need to put it before the right at the top. Maybe forget the width as well. Maybe responsive. Try that. Let's have a look. There we go. Maybe actually not there, but just after the H1, I think. Put it there. Yeah, so we've got sort of a basic image there of John Smith. Let's just check out on mobile, or check out sort of. One thing that's good, useful to do as well if you're trying to create. I mean, this usually does work because it's using Bootstrap, so the responsiveness is already in there. But see, nice and responsive straight out of the box. So it works on mobile. It's going to work on PC. It's going to work on Mac. It's going to work on whatever. So already you can see that's sort of started to look like something a bit more good, which is good. The colours are a bit bland maybe, but okay, so this is maybe we need to add some custom CSS actually. So for example, maybe I want to change the background. It's like a sort of grey at the minute, this Jumbotron or the Navbar. Maybe I want to make this Navbar have a, let's make it background dark actually. I think just change that. Yeah, I think that might do it. Yeah. And then I think that is the beauty of Bootstrap. It's just all I had to do there was I changed two classes from light to dark, automatically changed the look of it. So that's quite nice. So this is the about section here. We want to make a reference to that. It's basically next. So let's give it let's give the container class and I think you just do it with ID of about, and then we just go to this and then go about. I don't really like this. Let's create. Well, let's go on to making this paintings part. So we want to have some images basically. We want some images of the artist's work. So I'm just going to grab a quick few. I don't know. It's not really. Let's get some Jackson Pollock photos or something. So Jackson Pollock. Just get a bunch of these paintings. It's not being used commercially, so it doesn't really matter. Probably just not call them one and stuff. Let's grab this Jackson Pollock. 2. No, that's horrible. I think that's fake. Doesn't look real. Maybe it is though, I don't know. 3. Just gonna give them numbers. You could probably give them more descriptive titles if you wanted to, but 4. Download about 8 photos. The painting section. No. I'm on 5. 6. I like that one. 6. So just putting these images into their own folder. 7. It might be a bit too small, I'm not sure, but it's basically just an exercise. And then 8. Okay, so next thing we want to do is get some like a sort of image library. So we want like a row, 3 columns, each with an image in. So a responsive image. We're going to use the responsive image. But the first thing we have to do is, remember I was talking about containers and rows and columns. So we want to implement that. So let's do that. So let's just add a container there, yeah, and a row, new row. I think it's already got a container actually. Let me just double check. No, it doesn't, but we can add that maybe later if we need to. Okay, so just going to copy and paste this. So we'll get 3 columns there, and then we're going to add some responsive images in each column. There we go. So immediately we've sort of got that markup in there, which is good. I thought I've explained that before, so I won't go over it again. I mean, I do apologise if this seems like I'm copying and pasting stuff too much, but I've already gone over a bit, so it's just image source. Image fluid is the responsiveness class from Bootstrap. And then we're going to go photos, and I'm going to go, I think it was just download. What's JF? Oh, okay, some of them have downloaded weird. So I kind of need to do it again. Let's just check that works. Anyway, first. No, okay. Right, why? That's why. There we go. So we've got our first painting in there, and it should be responsive. Yeah. Okay, so we've got our first painting there. Just get a few more because I think I messed up and downloaded. Well, it's just things protecting me from naughty people like me downloading images on the internet. Let's just check which ones we're missing. So I think it was 4 or 1 as well. It's JPEG, yeah, that's good. This one, 3. And maybe 4. That's right, yeah, 4, 5, 6 I need as well. It's even a different artist, I think. No, okay, so we've got 6. Just 8. 1. Oh no, maybe. I don't know. Just put something else. Diff. Doesn't have to be that. So anyway, I'm gonna get too caught up in doing that because it's just sort of boring to watch, I'm sure. So let's go photos, and then we want 4, whatever. It doesn't really matter. They don't have to be in order. They're really there as just an example. Not even the same artist, are they? Okay, get this one in there. Okay, 8. Let's just do. The next thing we want to do is we want to create another row. So we want to create a row below the row we just created. A row is obviously like this. Column is so 3. Diff, and then I just need 1 more probably for now. Which one don't I have in there? Oh, not JPEG. JPEG. Oops daisy. Made a bit of a mistake there. Always have to check this sort of thing. Don't want to do JPEG. That's just the autocomplete for the Visual Studio Code. Watch out for that sort of thing sometimes. Get rid of that. Want it .jpeg, not JPEG, or it won't work. And this needs to be a actual photo, so 6 for now. yeah, 6, and just get rid of that because it's again the autocomplete doing that. Okay, there we go. There we go. We've got some pictures in there. Now maybe we want to add a little bit of, as I was saying before, I want a bit of a margin at the top because it's very close. So let's just add that onto this row here. So we can add 2 classes in sometimes and 1 div element, so or whatever element on the page. So let's go do that. You do margin T. I think it's this margin T2, which I think just adds a margin to the top. Maybe not. I think I might have forgotten one thing there. I know it's that for the margin on that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so that has a margin there. Make sure it lines. Yeah, it just needs to be at the top though. So is it MT2, I think? Because I just want to add the margin at the top. There we go. I think that's right now. So you can it's just added that. I probably want to make it a bit bigger. It's just a bit too close still. So we make 4. There we go. So it's a bit smoother there. It's a bit more. It's just a bit better. It just looks a bit better. So let's create a heading as well at the top. So we want to create a sort of heading here that just says painting is probably in H1 or something and centered. So again, so you don't always want to have to reinvent the wheel. So let's just use this. I think just can do it this way. So paintings. That's alright. Maybe I want to just center it. How do I do it again? I know how to do it in Sys. There we go. So just add text center, which will center it, which will make it look a bit more. Just add this class here, text center. I've not really gone into much custom CSS here, but that's sort of the point of using Bootstrap, is you don't have to do that much really. If you want something that's, I mean, you could add a lot more flair and everything else to it, but yeah. This is just like introducing the basics. It's not, we want to go over the top. And then we want to make it, maybe add this. Oh, no, looking the wrong way. I had to do, how do you do it again? This one, like, yeah, sorry, my bad. Where did I put that about? So the contact form now. So let's have a look at our components and see if we've got some form components on here or something. Input group. So what we need now is like a makeshift contact form. So I look at some of the form markup we can use here, and we've almost done it then. Now it's almost there. Forms, there we go. So that looks pretty much exactly what we want. We're only dealing with the actual layout of it so far. I know this is very generic. I'm just copying and pasting it again. But it's sort of just to give people an overview, like I said. This is not meant as some in-depth, here's everything you need to know about Bootstrap. It's just trying to explain the base concept. So here we go. Div class defined with so this defines a new form group each time. Let's just see what that looks like, just to show people how simple it really can be. We don't want that because okay, we need to add I think we need to add another container within the on the form, so that it's, because as you can see at the minute it's sort of from before it was or maybe even a row as well. Contact. I'm going to add a div there. Close off that container. Okay, it's just contained then. And we also want to create, so that creates some margins as well, which is good. We want to add the same sort of heading. So, in terms of like the actual layout and stuff, we're actually done, basically. Oh, I need to just remember how to do these. I always forget how to do this for some reason. Give me a sec. Ah, yeah, that was my bad. I always do this. I just forget that I don't have to add the hash in the ID. I'll explain what I'm doing there a little bit in a sec. I think it's just the fact that... why have I did it there? Sorry, I was being very silly there then. I don't know why I've done that. It's not that. It's not... I started adding the link to there. I don't know. Trying to fit too much in at once, I guess. There we go. So you'll see now that if we click on, oh no, that needs to change as well. Contact, it's wrong somehow. Have I added it even? Oh, I've just added. So let me explain what I'm doing here. So I'm just adding an internal link from the page to. So for example, paintings, we've got hash paintings, and then where it says paintings, we've got ID paintings. So that what that basically does is just links to that part of the page on that div. I often forget how to do it though, or just make a stupid mistake, but there you go. So that does that now, so you scrolls automatically to that part of the page. And there we go. So that's super basic navigation working. One page scrolling, artist website. Contact form doesn't work, but obviously if we wanted to get that to work, we need to implement something like PHP probably, because it'd be sending you can just usually use a script to send the message to whatever email you want it to send to, but that's a bit beyond the scope of this tutorial. One thing we could do, which might be quite nice, is to maybe add a like a sort of lightbox component, so that if you click on any of these, that's JavaScript. So again, not exactly what I want to go over in this tutorial. I think we've probably gone over enough there. We've covered. Let's maybe just add. Make this look a bit nicer. Just add John Smith where it says artist. I think that might work. Just add the Navbar brand. Painter. Artist. See what that looks like. So we've covered a bit about that's a bit there. Maybe just John Smith. So I've gone a bit into the design aspect of it as well. So there we go, that's better. So yeah, I've talked a bit about the design aspect. I've talked a bit about how you can use Bootstrap to quickly build up ideas around layout. That's basically been the main purpose of this tutorial. I've shown you quickly how you can build a really fast website really fast. That's probably been what? It's been 40 minutes. And I've got that pretty fast. It doesn't take that long once you know what you're doing. I know obviously I've reused a lot of Bootstrap classes and just modified them a little bit. But if you're rapidly prototyping something, that is basically what you do. So we've got, and if you're say an artist that just wanted to create your own quick portfolio page, then this is one way you can do it. I mean, obviously this needs a bit more functionality and everything else to be proper whiz bang, but hopefully that's given you a bit of an introduction to some design principles, ways to use Bootstrap, and generally be useful. Okay, I've been Noir Nerd. If you like that, subscribe below. I've tried to keep it as short as I can, but still 45 minutes. But yeah, okay. Subscribe. Cheers.